Hello, everyone. Welcome to the New Frontier Africa. My name is AbdulRasheed AbUBAKAR. According to late Rep. John Lewis, choose confrontation wisely, but when it is your time, don't be afraid to stand up, speak up, and speak against injustice. On this note, I say a big congratulations to Dr. Akiwumi Adesina for his re-election as the President, African Development Bank. I salute his courage for speaking up against injustice, and I salute his confidence to move African Development Bank forward. Once again, on the New Frontier Africa, from the studio in Washington, D.C., I say a big congratulations, Dr. Akiwumi Adesina. On today's edition, I have Mr. Obi Emekekwue. Please correct me if I didn't pronounce it correctly.
Not bad. Emekekwue.
Emekekwue.
Excellent.
Mr. Obi Emekekwue.
Yes.
He is now the president of a new business consulting organization based in New York and Africa. And also joining me on the show today, I have Mr. Kamil Olufowobi. He's the founder and CEO MIPAD, Most Influential People of African Descent, an organization that is recognized and affiliated to the United Nations here in New York. He's also joining me from Lagos, Nigeria. Welcome, Mr. Obi.
Thank you very much, Kamil. AbdulRasheed. It's a pleasure to be with you today.
Also, Mr. Kamil.
Yes.
How are you?
I am doing great. Thank you for having us, and thank you for what you do. We love you, and keep up the good work.
Thank you so much. Let me start with Mr. Kamil from Lagos. Can you tell me and our viewers how it all started with the MIPAD programs?
Okay, thank you again for having us on this program and for giving voice to Africa from DC. I've known you many years, and your consistency and your love for Africa always warms my heart. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
So again, as you introduced, my name is Kamil Olufowobi, and I am privileged to be the CEO and the founder of the Most Influential People of African Descent, which is a global civil society organization working in support of the United Nations Declaration of a decade to recognize the positive contributions of people of African descent from all over the world, from the years 2015 till 2024. So what we do is to work with them on the first pillar of the decade, which is recognition. So there are three pillars of the international decade for people of African descent. The first pillar is recognition. The second is justice for the historical injustice to people of African descent from around the world. And the third is development. So that's the backstory. So together, working with them, we identify people of African descent from all over the world in the diaspora and on the continent, and we pair them together to work together for the glory of Africa and its diaspora. So that's the task that I have, committed myself to. This is the fourth edition. This is the mid-year. So let me use that. So out of the 10 years, this year, 2020, is mid-year. So we're looking back to see how far we've come and how much more we have to go. I'll pause there and just, see if you have any questions.
Okay. Yeah, thank you so much for that brief and very concise insight. Mr. Obi, you retired recently from the African Export and Import Bank in Cairo, and with that big and huge commitment and huge involvement, work you're doing with the bank. We wasn't expecting you to exit. So what is new, on your table right now?
Thank you very much, AbdulRasheed. It's been a pleasure. It's a great pleasure to be with you here today. It's a pleasure working with you. You were one of my strongest supporters, while I was working in Afrexim Bank. So I must say a big thank you to you.
Thank you.
I enjoy really working with you. I think before I answer your question, actually, today is a very historic day for Africa. And I'm talking about the re-election of Akinwumi Adesina as president of the African Development Bank. He is a man who is strongly committed to the continent. And there were some undertones as he was about to go for re-election, but I'm very happy that at the end of the day, the truth prevailed and he's been able to receive a new mandate to continue doing what he's doing. Yes. And as I say that, I also note that also my own president in Afrexim Bank yes. also was re-elected.
Yes.
So now that you have a team of these two very strong, very committed individuals, on the case of the continent, we can look forward to a very successful period going forward. So having said that, let me respond to your question specifically. Up until April, I had a role as the Director of Communications and Events at Afrexim Bank.
Yes.
And that role involved managing all the communication activities of the bank, all the events that were being planned by the bank, and essentially running the strategy of the bank to make sure that these messages got out to the right people. I did that job for 8 years, and in line with the policies of the bank, I got to the point where my job was done. So I effectively retired from the bank in April. Of course, COVID-19 caught up with everybody. So, it wasn't the kind of departure I was looking forward to, but everything went well. And here I am right now. Obviously, I still plan to remain quite active in the communications field and also in issues that deal with Africa. So what I have done at the moment is to set up an advisory organization, an agency to advise on media and communications issues, especially with a focus on Africa, and also to provide any kind of business support to people trying to engage on the continent. So on the communication side, things like strategic communications, PR, public affairs, media relations, and advertising and events management, advisory services to businesses, engage in such activities in Africa. On the business side, we're able to assist companies or businesses trying to go into Africa in terms of hand-holding where they need it, helping to identify resources where there's need for that, and also providing business information. So, it's still an ongoing arrangement to set things up properly, but we intend to operate primarily between the United States and Africa. We have an operation in Nigeria out of Abuja and also in New York here. So, between the 2 points, we'll be managing things. But of course, obviously, with the situation with the COVID at the moment, things are not quite stable as they should be at the moment, but we're gradually settling down. So that's that's where we are at the moment.
Yes, yes. I was going to ask you also again, how you think the COVID global pandemic has affected the media industry, in your opinion?
That actually is a very critical question. But the way I look at it is that the media industry has always been able to operate outside of the regular office structure. So what COVID has done is that it has essentially made it difficult for people who are desk bound in offices to operate. People have been forced to operate from home or to work, electronically, and all that. And for the media, that actually becomes not a very major problem, because to a large extent, you don't really need to be in an office to do most of what you do.
Yes.
Most of what you do, you can actually do from other areas.
Remotely.
Yeah, remotely. The challenge really, though, is that some of the activities that media would normally engage in have had to be curtailed. So which means that, you don't have so many events, conferences, and such activities that would normally provide the work for the journalists to do. So we have to find other ways to generate content for the media. But my view is that the COVID situation has had an impact on the media, but I wouldn't say that the media industry is among the worst hit, in this situation. It just takes a bit of imagination and rearranging things to get things moving again.
Okay.
And as we are looking forward, it looks like there seems to be some kind of light at the end of the tunnel. So we keep our fingers crossed that things will get a lot better.
Yes. Thank you so much. And I believe I strongly believe in your leadership, that any business out there, that require your expertise, I believe that you will definitely do a wonderful job, as you've done in the past with the United Nations here in New York, NAM, before you move to African Bank. So,
thank you so much.
Let me hold some thoughts. I'll continue the conversation with you. Let me go back to Lagos. Mr. Kamil.
Yes, I'm here.
Can we talk a little bit about Most Influential 100 Recognition Week?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean,
MIPAD,
before we do that, I want to take a moment to celebrate Obi and for the work that you continue to do. Afrexim Bank, Africa's export-import bank, has a Pan-African role, and you were very vital in that work. And I had experience of working with you because the bank did support our initiative. So I want to use this moment. I know that you're retired now, but just to say thank you, a big gratitude for the work that you do. And it's interesting, we're on this call together. I remember my last message to you was, we need to pull you out of retirement. You can't get off that easy, right? Because you were at the UN. And the office I work directly with is the office you used to be in, the Global Communications Office. And right. Then, I met again with you, our paths crossed again with Afrexim. So I'll leave it by, again, saying thank you, and just use this. The moral of the story is that when our paths would always cross, because yes, our desires for Africa is genuine, right? So when we bump into each other, we should just smile, just like I see here and I'm smiling. Those who love Africa would always show up. So thank you so much. And
I should be thanking you for all the support.
Absolutely. Yes. So we look forward to keep working with you, and see what we can do to amplify and speak and support Africa to have a relevant voice in the world. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, let's AbdulRasheed, okay, talk to me. What do you want to know?
Let's talk about MIPAD, Most Influential 100 Recognition Week.
So again, like I said, the platform is in conjunction with the United Nations for this decade, right? And we focus on the first pillar, which is recognition. Yeah. Now, we live in such interesting times now, thanks to the global racial equality movement. What we do now makes more sense to many people. The first thing I would say is many people did not know that the United Nations declared an entire decade, 10 years, to focus on people of African descent. So many people don't know. So for your viewers tonight, you should look it up. There's an entire decade. We're already 5 years in, and we have 5 more years to go. So let's all get involved, leverage that to get all the things that we deserve in this world, especially justice for our historical injustice. On the Recognition Week, which is a 5-day program we host in New York at the United Nations, we bring together the honorees from over 60 different countries into New York for 5 days. And we take them through a leadership and personal development training, which is usually my favorite part of the week, is to see them add more tools to their toolkits to be the leaders who will build the Africa that we want. And we conclude that week with their global recognition, and we usually host a film screening for them in the UN headquarters. In the past, we did Black Panther. I was happy to know that presidents, African presidents, for the first time, and First Lady sat down and actually watched that movie of Black Panther at the UN. So that was us connecting Black America with African sovereign power. And for me, that is the future I see, is where we begin to connect the wealthiest, you can say that, the wealthiest Black people on the planet, which is African Americans, said to have a $1.7 trillion economy, and the most powerful Black people in the world, African presidents or African governments and institutions. So we are on that path to be the bridge to bring together the diaspora, the global African diaspora, and the continent to start working together. The continent is 1.2 billion people, right? And the buying power of, people of African descent outside of Africa and their expertise. So my final note on that is this. I want you to just visualize it. The diaspora has that over 1.7 trillion, $1.2 trillion of buying power. And because they are in the diaspora, they have access to expertise because of the exposure they have living outside of Africa. When you combine that with a continent that has 1.2 billion consumers, right? And sovereign powers, right? And you start to bring that together, you would realize that Africa would start to have the voice we all desire for us to have. I'm in Lagos right now, and I am heartbroken at the state of things in the U.S. But I look forward to a day when Africa would be able to sanction America for what it's doing. No, I really mean that. For Africa to be able to boycott American products until they fix. I'm American, so I can say this, that we need to be able to boycott America until America, racist system of oppression is put in check. During apartheid, we boycotted. I remember growing up in America during as a child in America, as a teenager. South Africa was boycotted. South African products and companies and government was boycotted by America until apartheid fell. So what stops us from doing the same thing to America today? So I'm heartbroken, but I know that Africa has a critical role to play. We cannot leave our people to keep dying and Africa is silent. So that's, in conclusion, to answer your question, Recognition Week is a week where we bring together these young future global leaders of Africa to give them more tools and more understanding of how to bring our collective wealth and our collective expertise to fight a global system of oppression. So that's the purpose of why we do what we do. I'll stop there.
Thank you so much for that insight. It's wonderful, wonderful insight. Thank you. Let me just, come back to your conclusive part, which, you mentioned that you're looking forward to a day where Africa will sanction the US. Actually, during the opening introduction, I spoke about late John Lewis. Actually, at this moment, and according to Mr. Obi as well, today is a historic day for Africa, because actually the United States was against the re-election of Dr. Adeshina, Akiwumi Adeshina. Not for any reason, but because of his radical ideas to move Africa Development Bank forward from being just an institution to a working and progressive institution, taking it to a higher level. So the United States see this as a big threat, and the Secretary of Treasury called for independent investigation to nothing. So we are very right. It is time for African leaders to stand up and speak up, and never to be afraid of what will come. Because today, Dr. Akiwumi, I know that will be happy, that he was exonerated of all false allegation, and he was re-elected as the president of the African Development Bank. So that is a unique moment. Today is a unique moment, for Africa.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, we'll continue to talk to him and also engage with the African Development Bank on his ideas. We've always been working with the AFDB on the Africa Investment Forum in South Africa, and more initiative coming from Dr. Akiwumi, as he said he will announce after his re-election. So thank you for that insight, Mr. Kamil. Yeah, let me come back to you, Mr. Obi.
Yes.
Before we take this quick break, because my producer is telling me that we have to go on a short break. Let me say that today, the way, how do you see communication, and your business and communication consulting firm? How do you see it integrating with because this is a new thing for you?
Yes.
You've always been a corporate journalist, working with the bank, and also working with several other private organizations.
Yes. No, you're quite right. My decision to actually embark on this journey, is actually a feeling I have that in the years I've practiced communications, I have gathered quite a bit of experience and expertise in dealing with the issues that surround communication. And also I've seen the areas where there are gaps, in what entities, businesses, companies, corporations do, especially as it relates to Africa. How do you access the market? How do you make that connection between what is happening in Africa and what is happening outside of Africa? So basically what I'm looking at is that being able to be a bridge for, especially the diaspora, really, to be able to engage, with the continent, to find ways to be able to connect, to bring their expertise into the continent, and to be able to also benefit from what exists on the continent. I believe that the kind of advisory services that I'll be able to provide, will be able to give them the footing to be able to do that. Africa's story, has never really been told properly. And I believe that the more opportunities there are, to talk about these things, then you're able to create the awareness that will help to drive business at the end of the day. Because at the end of the day, what you're looking for to achieve is to achieve economic growth for the continent.
Thank you, Mr. Obi.
Okay.
And thank you, my friend from Lagos, Mr. Kamil, Olufowobi. My viewers from all over the world, don't go away. We'll take a short break, a quick break. When we come back, we'll continue on the New Frontier Africa show. Welcome back on the New Frontier Africa show. My name once again, AbdulRasheed AbUBAKAR. On the show today, I have Mr. Obi Emekekwue.
You got it right.
Yes, thank you. And also joining us from Lagos is Mr. Kamil Olufowobi. On the show today, we are discussing coronavirus, the path forward. Mr. Obi, let me come to you again, and let's talk a little bit more about the beyond the stimulus package. What do you think is needed for SMEs after suffering the global pandemic, the COVID-19 pandemic?
Yes, no, actually, my view is that the pandemic is actually one of perhaps the greatest threat that has faced the global economy. So it should not be looked at like any other event or any other challenge that has come before the global community. And therefore, it's up to countries really to do whatever is necessary to support businesses to come out of this pandemic. You just have to look around to see the amount of damage that has been done to, especially individuals, as people who have people who depend on what you might want to call non-steady income, who earn their income based on you put in the work today, you get paid for it. Now, with the shutdown of almost everything, it's been extremely difficult for many of them. So I think that governments have a responsibility, to provide as much support as possible to these individuals. And one way to do that is through the kind of what they call palliatives to SMEs, to other businesses, so that they are able to keep these people on their payroll, and also to meet their own immediate needs, and provide all kinds of social cushions to prevent them from actually shutting down completely. It's a very difficult situation for many people, and I think governments are doing their best at the moment, but I think there's still room for more.
So, do you think there is any advantages for businesses to explore in the pandemic? Do you think there's any?
Well, the thing is that whatever happens, there are always those who benefit from it, and there are those who encounter difficulties.
Yes.
For instance, if you look at the businesses that were already doing things online, business online, some of them are actually doing much better today than they were doing before the pandemic. But for other businesses that are more hands-on, that involve people going to sit down in offices to do their normal things, it has been very hectic, and they have had to make adjustments. For those who have survived the best, or who have managed the situation the best, are those businesses that had some kind of a risk management plan in place before now, who had anticipated that at some point something could happen that could actually make it possible to not go to work in the normal sense that we have it, and therefore they have put some kind of system in place that enabled them, that now that you have this situation, they were able to just pull out these plans and use them to begin to work remotely and continue production. For those people, it has been less of a challenge than for those that didn't have this kind of plans in place. But it's quite difficult for everybody all around, I must say. For the majority of businesses, it has been really, really difficult.
So it has really been difficult. That is where I want to start.
Yeah.
So, as an expert, now on business strategy, what survival strategy hint can you give businesses and also countries, from your experience with a development bank?
I think that for countries, it requires that, serious planning, to ensure that businesses are provided with as much financial safety nets as possible. Where possible, there should be loans to support those critical businesses. In other cases, it might have to be grants. But many businesses cannot survive, without some kind of support from the government. And these critical businesses must go on. Otherwise, the impact of the pandemic is actually going to be worse than what it is already. For the businesses themselves, what you're looking at is the need to adapt. I don't think that we are going to go back anytime soon to business as usual.
Okay.
It means that there has to be arrangements and people have to make sacrifices, but where people used to be able to go to the office every day, it may become necessary to have a situation where some people may have to go and some may have to stay and work remotely. So you have to have some kind of balancing. You just have to look at the kind of business you're doing and see how to adapt, taking into account that things are not what they used to be, and they're not likely to become what they used to be in any foreseeable future. Even if the pandemic goes away today, it's still going to be difficult to go back to where things were.
So in a nutshell, you are talking about facing this pandemic as a reality that has come to stay.
Precisely, because
so now I want you to be a little bit more specific.
Yes.
Can you, give advice, like, a hint for a business person out there looking at watching the show on, based on your experience with the bank, how do you think, they can continue to leverage on their businesses?
Well, I mean, like I said, it's really about adapting. Because adapting is the key. Is the key, because let's say for example, you have a business that was into tourism, for instance.
Yes.
That sector has been devastated.
Exactly.
Even if the pandemic goes away today,
right,
it's going to be a long time before people begin to fly freely again. People begin to go to hotels and do their regular things the way they used to do in the past.
Yes.
So in my thinking, that business will do well to look around and see how can we adjust our work.
Okay.
So that we're able to do something else in addition to tourism, because we can't. If you wait to go back to exactly what you were doing before, you might face a real hard time, because things are not going to go back to where it was very quickly. So
what you just mentioned is interesting to note that recently Lufthansa announced some ridiculous layoff of their employees, and also mentioned to ground over 500 aircraft. That is very disturbing,
Yes. Yes. No, it is very true, but you also, if you look at it, you will try to see what are their options. Right. The flight, I mean, occupancy of the aircraft, is down to, in some cases, down to less than 30%. So how do you keep that airline operational if you don't, downsize in some way? It's not just Lufthansa; it's almost every airline. I mean, if you go to Nigeria, some airlines were also about to. They are starting to lay off people. The government has intervened and kind of tried to provide some support to ask them to please keep people on, at least for the time being. But the business are hurting. They are bleeding money, and unless they find a way to survive, it's going to be extremely difficult. So it's it's really difficult, really. It's a difficult choice for many of them.
It's a difficult time.
Yeah.
And absolutely. Thank you so much, Mr. Obi. We'll come back to that discussion. I don't want to ask you anything that has to do with Afrexim, but our viewers have sent in some questions. But I'm not going to ask you that question. Let me take Mr. Kamil. I think he's back with us from Lagos. Yeah. Mr. Kamil, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, sir. Thank you for welcome back. And this is going to be both of you. I want both of you to respond to this thought inside. So right now, the UK, United Kingdom, is already in a recession, and its worst years. Others will follow. Do you see a quick recovery from these nations? Mr. Kamil?
Yeah, I'll let Obi take that first, and I'll tell you what I think.
Okay.
Okay. I think for me, the simple answer is no. I don't see a quick recovery for them, because the extent of the damage done by COVID is so deep that it's going to be a while. But at the same time, I'm also confident that with proper planning, once the core problems are over, countries should be able to bounce back. But it is going to require some effort, because what has happened has already done extensive damage. I mean, even things simply, just like education, for instance. Kids are out of school. the whole school year is messed up. Maybe it will go back to normal, but frankly, where countries are right now, everything is it's crazy. You look at businesses; they've lost so much money. You have to. It's going to be a while to really put things back to where they were before.
So before Mr. Kamil responds to that, Mr. Obi, the only country that declare COVID free right now is New Zealand. Yeah. What have they done right? What are other countries? What are they doing wrong?
If you want to be honest, right. I think we have to agree that it comes down to science. The science is clear on what countries need to do, and if you do it in time,
right,
it's more than likely that you can control the spread of a pandemic of this nature. And that was what the
New Zealand
did. Also, it also helps that it's a small country, so it's easier to kind of close up and monitor and control things. So there are a number of factors at play there, but I think the critical thing is, understanding the problem and taking immediate science-based action to prevent the spread. I think that's what they did right.
Mr. Kamil, what do you think?
So let me begin by saying that COVID, none of us, we didn't see it coming. And the impact has truly been devastating. So like Obi said, the answer is no for quick recovery. There will be nothing quick about COVID and a recovery. And I tend not to use the word go back. I picked up on something Obi said earlier. If you are in business and you're still waiting for things to go back to the way they were, that's going to be a lot of hurt, waiting for things to go. And if you start to understand that we're not going to go back, because what we thought was normal before, we've discovered that it wasn't normal. The UN Secretary General, likened, COVID as exposing it's like an X-ray. Now we can see all the broken parts in our societies, and we can start to look at this as from an opportunity perspective, as an opportunity to start to reset our societies to be more equitable, and for it to become more sustainable, right? So This could be, you could look at it, you can choose to look at it either way. How bad it's going to be, because it's going to get really bad. We're still this is just the tip of the iceberg for what has happened. But if you start to look at it from a positive perspective, meaning it's a new world that we're about to embark on, and how we can change some of the things that we're not working for many people. And I would use specific examples and say tourism. Let's use that, because we've started talking about that. Devastated. The airline industry, billions lost, right?
Right.
But the question I was asking is, none of the airlines that I am a frequent flyer, none of them have reached out to me to talk about the future of travel, to talk about how, as a global traveler, how am I coping during, this period, and even creating communities for us to, to get a sense of belonging and make themselves relevant in our lives, during this period. None of them. I cannot recall, any of the major airline partners, doing that. They so I think everybody's still saddled down with how bad this thing is, instead of getting, comfortable with, okay, we are going to be the ones who are going to define the new norms. It is us, the consumers. It is the community of people that you already have. Your greatest asset now, if you're a business person and you're listening to this, your greatest asset right now is your consumers, people who ever interacted with you. You need to quickly rally around them, build a community around them, understand from them. Okay, so in the absence of you physically being able to touch my product, how have you been surviving, right? And now let me use schools for example. Schools. So I moved. My children. The reason why I moved from the U.S. Is to give my children an experience of growing up in Africa. So they're going to school here in Nigeria, in Lagos, and one of the things I would have loved to see more from the school system is for them to reach out to parents to, on the coping mechanisms for children, to find out how they can remain relevant, in the lives of, aside from the Zoom classes and all of that. So the point I'm making is, imagine if, schools were able to, to bring parents together and create a sense of community amongst us, and begin a process where we start to see how relevant they are beyond just, putting our children on Zoom calls, right? I'll be happy to pay school fees, if I felt there was more value, because doing their school work and doing our own full-time job, it was almost impossible. Being able to take care of them being in school and also us having full-time work. So my point is that brands need to engage their consumers a lot closer. Let me know you care. Let me know you're going through these hard times. And through that interaction, the secret is you will learn new ways of becoming relevant to your consumers. So my final thought on COVID and the impact, especially for business, is this that I've discovered. You see, experts have told us, based on old knowledge, because nobody knows, right?
Right.
Nobody really knows. Now, the new knowledge, right, is going to come from us, the real people who are going through this, right? And how we are adapting our lives to, we are going to be the ones who will define the new norms, not the experts, not the brands. So my advice is, get out there, start talking to your consumers, people who have interacted with you before, who have bought your products before, who have used your services. Find out from them, what have they done in the absence of your service, and how can you be a part of continue to, modify how to deliver that product to them. Tourism, for example, what stops you from doing virtual tourism for people? Right? Obi's in New York now. He's a frequent flyer with I don't know what airline. While Obi's in New York, he's walking around. Do virtual tourism for others, right? Come up with creative ways of being relevant in today's world, not trying to wait to go back to what it used to be, because it's not.
So on that note, because we have like 5 minutes to go on the show today, and it's becoming more interesting that you are bringing out all these very important thoughts. So now, Mr. Kamil, and I really want to get sense of your relocation back to Nigeria and how you're doing. What can the diaspora, Nigerian or African diaspora, what can they learn from you? If they are interested to move back to Africa, because some of them have been talking about the challenges. So, but I don't get to talk to you about all this because of time. I think I have to bring.
Yeah, so that's a whole nother show. That's a whole nother show.
I think I have to bring both of you back again. My producer is there.
Yeah.
Can you please, producer?
But I have to say this
back for me.
This is
Now,
a very
but before
important
you
point.
go, I want you to tell me what you think about this question. One of our viewers asked, will our lives ever go back to what it used to be in terms of health practices that we are in now? And face mask practices. You know, will our life ever go back to the new to normal?
I mean, Obi, I don't know what you think, but like I said, going back, the idea of at least I would advise people should not get hooked on wanting to go back. What are you going back to? There was so much wrong in
So what we go, what
we used to
in
be
terms of you, like now, if I want to fly back to Nigeria, do I have to use face mask all the way
Yeah,
from
sure. You have to protect
all the
yourself.
way
I mean, we don't.
from
Yeah,
from IAD dollars to
I don't
Lagos?
see that changing. I think it's even going to get more mechanical. I mean, Obi, what do you think?
No, I agree. I agree with you. I think in the foreseeable future, these changes have come to stay. I mean, maybe it may well be that at some point, things will kind of gradually revert. But I think that to be on the safe side, we're probably going we'll be stuck, with these changes for the foreseeable future. Because it's all about protecting. You don't know what is out there, and even if COVID-19 gets finally eradicated,
Right.
something else will come up. So we just have to adjust our minds to all these things.
And this is unconfirmed information. I was told the CDC secretly dropped the requirement of 14 days isolation when you travel overseas. Well, this is unconfirmed yet, so we'll look into that, and we'll talk to our viewers on the show about it further next time. I want to thank Mr. Obi Emekekwue. I want to thank you so much for coming on the show today, and your company. I look forward to talking to you more about what you do. The what's the name of your company?
DelReeve Consult.
DelReeve Consult is a new business and communication consulting firm.
Yes, let's patronize you. We want to work with you. You bring so much expertise.
Based out of New York and Abuja in Nigeria.
Thank you so much.
Probably also will have another office in Accra, Ghana.
Well, we'll see about that. It's Africa focused. So,
and also, Mr. Kamil, thank you for talking to me today, Mr. Kamil. I really appreciate you coming on the show. Mr. Kamil is the founder and CEO, most influential people of African descent, a UN recognized civil society organization, and it's also a global organization. Mr. Kamil is doing very well in terms of engaging African diaspora, and also bringing people of African descent together all over the world. Thank you for doing what you do. We really appreciate you, and we love you. We want you to
love you too, bro. Well done.
Want you to come back home.
I am home. I'm living.
Yeah, you're home.
Sell Africa. We have to believe in the product we're selling.
So
right?
your final message, Mr. Kamil, before you go.
So my final message would be exactly what I just said, which is we have to believe more in this product that we're selling. We're selling Africa. We need to believe more in it. We can't do it from afar. We have to get our hands. We have to, be here. We have to be a part of its future while away or by being on the continent. Obi left New York, went to Cairo to be a part of a bank that, oversees a Pan-African agenda for Africa. I'm here in Lagos, giving the next generation an opportunity to know what Africa is, to respect Africa. So my final thought is we need to get high on our own supply. I mean, we talk about Africa all the time. We need to lead by example and work together, no matter where we are, to work together for the glory of the continent and our people worldwide.
Yeah, thank you so much for that. And also, we'll be talking more with Mr. Kamil on the MIPAD event from October 2nd to October 5th. That is a signed event of the United Nations in New York. We'll be talking more with Mr. Kamil about that. Mr. Obi, your final message to our viewers.
Thank you very much. I think my message to the viewers is to say that Africa is actually where the future is. So we all need to join hands together to work towards the upliftment of that continent, to bring it to the place where we want it to be. And that requires, collaboration between Africa and Africans in Africa and Africans in diaspora. So that connection, that linkage is what we need to work very hard at achieving so that we can actually grow together. But the continent holds a lot of future for everybody. So that's my message to everybody.
Yeah, thank you so much for that. And thank you for coming to the show, the New Frontier Africa show from Washington, D.C. Thank you also, Mr. Kamil, for joining me from Lagos, Nigeria. My name once again is AbdulRasheed AbUBAKAR. Until we meet again next week, Thursday. Have a blessed week. Enjoy the rest of your week, Mr. Kamil and Mr. Obi.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. And bye, Obi. Good to connect
bye,
again.
Kamil.
Right,
thank you very much.
Bye.
Okay,
so
bye-bye.
Cheers.
Okay. Cheers.
Cheers.